What's up, everybody? It's Danny from the Lassercast, and I am here with my beautiful wife, Athena, for the first time on the channel, and Charlotte, who you guys know. And if you couldn't tell by our shirts, we're here to talk about The Shinings, because we're going to do kind of a book to movie to miniseries comparison. I just read the book for the first time 2 weeks ago. You read the book
a few times.
Yeah, she is an English teacher. She reads like crazy. I use Audible when I run. It's been a lifesaver. Although reading The Shining during quarantine when you're stuck in the house might not have been a good idea.
I've seen many correlations between Jack Torrance and Danny Torkel.
Isn't that right, pup? Oh, sorry. We also, as a family, including Charlotte, who's almost 10, watched the original classic 1980 Stanley Kubrick film on one of the old school plastic lid DVDs. And then I had to buy this off of Amazon, a triple feature of the 1997 miniseries of The Shining, the It miniseries from 1990, and the Salem's Lot remake with Rob Lowe, which I've never seen. So we just watched all of this. The movie, the miniseries, we've each read the book. So I guess the easiest thing to do would be to start, for those of you who might be a little bit lost on The Shining, to do
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, to do a plot synopsis of the book before we get into the movies. So do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that?
I can do it together.
Okay, we can do it together. Okay.
Jack Torrance is an ex-professor who lost his job and needs a new one, and is applying to be a caretaker at the Overlook Hotel, a magnificent historic hotel in Sidewinder, Colorado. He needs this job, one, because he needs a job, but two, because he wants to write a play to kind of kickstart his life again. He is a recovering alcoholic, 5 months dry, and he has a wife, Wendy, who is a very strong woman, and his son, Danny, who is a very special little boy.
Yeah. There's a few things. First of all, you read the book a long time ago, and you have an amazing memory of details that I, just read the book 2 weeks ago, and I was like, how many months? Wow, you remembered that? Yeah, the recovering alcoholic, and Danny has The Shining, which we find out what that is when they get to the Overlook, and he meets the cook, Dick Halloran, who explains to him that The Shining is something he learned from his grandmother. Basically, the ability to read other people's thoughts, to see things, sometimes before they happen. And you can communicate with others who have The Shining in your mind. And he kind of gives Danny a wink and a nod and says, if anything happens when you're here at the Overlook, call out to me and I'll come a-running. It needs to be stated that the Overlook is a summer hotel, and there are no customers there in the winter. It snows. They are basically stuck there with just a radio and a phone line that pretty much gets wiped out by the storms every winter.
And one snow machine.
A snowmobile.
Cat.
Yeah, that they're going to use
in case of emergencies.
In case of emergencies. So that's pretty much it. And by the way, the hotel happens to be haunted. It has an incredible dark past going back to the time right after World War II, which the book explores in detail. And we find out that the hotel is trying to suck Jack in, but not for Jack, but more to gain Danny's power, The Shining.
Danny has the power to make them come to life almost. The one thing that you didn't mention is that although Jack is there to be the caretaker, his utmost important job is to, I'm not sure what the exact word for it is, dump the boiler once a day, or the boiler will explode.
Yeah, this is the book was written in the late 70s, and the Kubrick film came out in 1980. But the hotel was built in the early 1900s and was renovated after World War II. It's an old hotel, even by the time it was written. And the boiler is pretty much like an old school boiler where if he doesn't dump the boiler, there's a right at the beginning of the book, they tell you if the temperature goes over 160, just get the hell out of there. There's like no hope. And that's a major detail in the book, which, like many things, is omitted from the original 1980 film. Hey, you're over here. You have any thoughts about going in?
No.
All right. So we
start with Kubrick.
Yes. So obviously, when people say The Shining, they think of this guy right here. They think of Jack Nicholson, and they think of Stanley Kubrick, who made a movie that in 1980 received Razzie Awards and was considered awful. And speaking of people who thought it was awful, Stephen King thought it was awful. I always thought people who thought it was awful were crazy, because it's one of the scariest movies ever made.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt the fact that My Name is Danny, and Come Play With Us, Danny, Forever and Ever is legitimately top 5 scares. We watched it together, the three of us, about a week and a half ago, and there's still parts of this movie that give me legit goosebumps, make me uncomfortable. It still works. So Kubrick was a master, no matter what you want to think about him as a human being and as an adapter of literature. He was a master filmmaker. But
Charlotte, what was one of the scariest parts for you in this version of
Stanley
the film?
Kubrick?
Yeah.
One of the scariest parts for me is, I have to agree, the bathroom scene was pretty scary, but the scariest part for me was probably when it said red rum was murder.
That is the scary part. I know 2 scenes that to this day, and I've seen this movie dozens of times, I cannot watch the bathroom scene. I can watch her walk up to him. I can't watch after that. And also when I know that the twins, he's going to see the vision of the twins chopped up, I can't watch that scene either.
the editing of the film, the way it just, between Danny Lloyd, the actor, and I guess we can get into the acting now in the original, because the acting is something. But Danny Lloyd, one of the things that we agree with after watching the miniseries is Danny Lloyd, the actor who played young Danny Torrance in the original film, does a pretty damn good job. Especially, he was age appropriate. In the book, Danny is, they describe him as that weird age where he's not a baby, but he's not quite a little kid yet. He's kind of like in the pre-K area. And when they moved from Vermont, he was like about to start kindergarten.
Yeah.
But the way they flash between the visions of him, like with then the girls on the floor and the elevator and the blood. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, him not having that much dialogue and his dialogue being more responsive to what the other actors were asking and saying was just perfect.
Yeah, that definitely, yeah, he emoted with his face so much for a little kid back then. Obviously, Jack Nicholson is Jack Torrance, and Shelley Duvall plays Wendy. And look, the reality is Jack Nicholson is amazing. This is a performance that, even though he's won multiple Academy Awards, this will probably, maybe like this and this with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, this will be the role that he is defined for the rest of his life and legacy. And that being said, he is absolutely not Jack Torrance from the book.
At all. Well, I mean, he is a little bit. He is. But they skip over so much of, he was a man who loved his family.
Yeah.
And that's what they they hinted at it, but they skipped over it. You know, like even when he was saying, I love you, Danny, I love you, you thought he was crazy.
Yeah, the literal first minute that you see him and Wendy, they're already crazy. This has been said before.
What do you want to say?
What I want to say is that the actor who plays Jack Torrance is already scary enough.
Yes. Yeah.
As a person.
He didn't have to go much to get to that level. And we were just saying when we finished the miniseries last night that I think my favorite part of the miniseries, and I think you said it too, was Steven Weber does a pretty good job, especially when you take into account that the miniseries from 1997 was written by Stephen King, basically because he wanted a book-accurate version of The Shining. Steven Weber does a hell of a job.
He was great. You could tell all through it, even when he was crazy, especially like the moments that he was just like, you know, Danny, run, that he loved Wendy and he loved Danny and he loved his family and he saved his family.
Yeah. And Shelley Duvall, we've read stories, we know that Kubrick was hell on her, but she just was miscast from the beginning, and I don't blame her for. I mean, part of what makes The Shining such an effective horror movie, and also what makes it as not an effective adaptation of the book, is her portrayal as Wendy. She looks terrified, and whether that was real terror because of what Stanley Kubrick might do to her, or what Jack Nicholson might do to her, or because of her acting scared of this ghostly hotel, she looked terrified from the very beginning of that movie. Whereas the book describes Wendy and goes into great detail about what a strong woman she is, and she's this beautiful blonde where like heads turn when she walks into places. And Rebecca De Mornay is that character. Like, Rebecca De Mornay is gorgeous, and she's blonde and statuesque, and she is the Wendy that the book describes. I thought she did a much better job. And again, I don't necessarily blame Shelley Duvall for that. I don't think she was cast appropriately. What do you think? What do you think of the mom in the original movie?
She was good, but I didn't really like her.
I like Shelley Duvall because I just love the original Shining so much. But Rebecca De Mornay was more Wendy Torrance. The thing I also wanted to mention is that you know, the miniseries did deviate from the book a little bit, especially the ending, which is funny because Stephen King is not known for his good endings, so he changed the ending a little bit from the book to the miniseries, because he made the what I said before about how at the end you could tell Jack, you know, really loved Danny and he saved them. That's not how it, spoiler alert, ends in the book.
Yeah.
He wanted to save the hotel.
Yeah, he runs down to the boiler, but he runs down to the boiler in a purely almost selfish way to save the hotel, to make sure that, because Jack goes there in the movie, in the Kubrick film, he's just a writer and he's going to do some writing. But you never actually see him do writing. You hear the typewriter, and of course the big reveal is all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. But there's never a clear plan there. In the book, he's writing a play, and Steven Weber in the miniseries is writing a play. But midway through the book, he kind of pushes his play to the side, and he becomes obsessed with the idea of the history of the Overlook. And he wants to essentially write The Shining. He wants to write a book about this hotel that has this haunted past. And he's kind of talked down by the people that got him the job and all of those things. So there's a lot of good stuff in that both versions kind of leave out.
Yeah.
I need to just say that we have 3 cats, and they are running around in circles outside of us like the hedge animals in the book, which appear in really bad CGI in the 1997 miniseries.
Yeah. Yeah, the CGI is not that good, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, we expect that.
Yeah, it's not the Langoliers.
One little detail that I do like about the miniseries is that we actually see Jack caretaking for the hotel, where we don't see Jack Nicholson as version doing anything at all to help the hotel. Like, you see him like shingle the roof, Steven Weber shingle the roof, and like, you know, fix things and stuff like that. So I like that. One part that I wish they did put in either version, well, I mean, they couldn't in the first one because they killed off Harold Halloran, but in the second version, they didn't put that as the hotel was burning, the Shining tried to grab Halloran to hurt Danny and Wendy. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was like a really nice touch, and how he like fought against it. But they didn't show that in the miniseries.
One dramatic change between the 80 movie and the 97 miniseries, and Shar, I want you to talk about it because
I know what part you're talking about.
What?
Tony.
Yeah. So what did you think about Tony?
So in the
original,
Tony was just, well, an imaginary friend, aka a finger. We never really got to see him, and Danny really spoke for him. And what I didn't know is that how Tony, like if he's an imaginary friend, how can he, like, when Danny asks him for information, how does Danny all of a sudden know all the information? It's like the hotel is giving him the information himself.
And what about Tony in the miniseries?
I thought he was cool. I don't really like how he was just like flying in the air, but he was cool. I like how at the end, when what's it called? When
graduation?
Yeah, at the graduation, the actor of Tony is actually older Danny.
Daniel Anthony Torrance. Yeah, I like that little detail as well.
Yeah. The miniseries puts Tony in the flesh. The actor, Will Horneef, he just kind of seemed, I don't know, for me, he kind of seemed out of place. Charlotte really enjoyed having him there. They also make the very bizarre decision to have him just literally float in, just like in the background of shots. He's just floating there, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And again, it's like the 1997 TV special effects, so it looks especially kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
She really liked that at first, but then it kind of, I do like how it kind of ends up with him, you know, where he's like Danny's future self. There were a few. I felt that the acting of the supporting characters in the 1980 miniseries were great. Joe Turkel plays Lloyd, the bartender. Philip Stone as Grady. I thought they do such a good job of conveying the dread and the real horrors of the hotel just by showing up as the bartender and the ex-caretaker. I didn't
like Elliot Gould as Ullman. I like the other Ullman better.
Well, the one thing I did like about Elliot Gould is that Elliot Gould played Ullman the way Ullman was in the book. In the book, Ullman
was an asshole.
He was an asshole, but he knows he's an asshole. And
he says he is.
And more than that, he doesn't want to hire Jack. He doesn't want to hire an ex-alcoholic to be alone in the hotel for almost 6 months. And he basically is told that I had to do this because somebody above my pay grade made the call. And he basically tells that to Jack at the beginning, Steven Weber's character. And I thought that was good. I did like Barry Nelson from the original. I do. What's really interesting, and I don't know, you tell me, because you're wearing the Overlook on your shirt. We both want to go to the Stanley Hotel. The miniseries was filmed at the Stanley Hotel. but I love the setting of the original, and I think the original hotel, which isn't the Stanley, does a better job of conveying horror than the actual Stanley Hotel did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a very weird little tidbit when I was looking it up, because most of the interior shots that Kubrick did, I think, are done in England, and it just works. Like the ballroom is bigger and grander. Obviously, the way Kubrick films the overlook and the hallways and the patterns and the rug and the carpeting, it does make it a lot scarier and a lot more tense.
I mean, but we know why. I mean, the Stanley Hotel was the inspiration for Stephen King to write the book, so that's why he chose it.
Yeah, he stayed in room 217, and in the book, of course, it's 217. What did you think of the 237 and 217 scene?
I thought the 217 scene was better.
She, at least 2 or 3 times over the course of the miniseries, and the miniseries was weird. It was done 3 parts, 2 hours each part, so it comes out to about 4.5 hours on TV.
You could tell where the commercial breaks were.
She jumped a lot during that miniseries. There were a few parts, especially room 237 in the original, where she just kind of sat there like this. And yeah, room 237 is one of those scenes where, and not to get weird, especially with Charlotte here, it's one of those weird scenes where you have a fully nude woman on screen, and there is not for 1 second the slightest bit of sexuality there. It's just like, even when she's standing there in her like beautiful form, you're sitting there knowing something bad's gonna happen. Don't touch her. Run away. Get the frick out of there. And yeah, I can't
think of the movie that it is that like is it Species, where it's like that beautiful woman that turns into
Species, the beautiful woman who's a monster, but that's Natasha Henstridge. I'll waver for that one. But yeah, the 237 scene. There were some great scenes though in the miniseries. I love that they brought back. They don't call it this in the book. He's very clear that it's Roke. The name of the game is Roke. In the miniseries that he wrote, he calls it European croquet. I think it is. But they're very clear to not use the axe and to use the croquet mallet, which I thought was great. Because it's kind of unique. It's a unique weapon. You don't see that used in a horror movie. You could pick up an 80s slasher movie that has, we watched Friday the 13th the other day. There was an axe kill.
To the face.
Yeah, there was an axe kill in that. So I kind of like that idea.
I think we disagree on Halloran. I like Kubrick's Halloran. I like Scatman Crothers.
Oh no, we don't disagree.
More than Mario. Okay.
I like miniseries Halloran.
You did? You do? Okay.
Yeah, Melvin Van Peebles.
He did a good job.
Yeah, he's fine. It's one of those things that, again, it's the nostalgia goggles for me with Halloran. I love Halloran leading them through the kitchen, Scatman Crothers in the original, and talking about in the pantry, we got rib roasts, we got hamburger, and it's just like that scene before any of the scares. It's just, his voice is perfect. And then you have him, just the scenes where Danny is having a vision and then he's in bed with like his mouth open, and Kubrick puts all these weird naked pictures up on the wall, and it stays with you and it's ingrained in your mind. So I almost feel bad for Melvin Van Peebles to have to like step into that role. Who was I reading? They wanted Mick Garris, who directed the miniseries version. Mm-hmm. He had done The Stand, which
that's why he cast Julie Lowry in it.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I don't know the name of the actress, but
Shawnee Smith.
Shawnee Smith plays a small cameo in the miniseries, and she played Julie Lowry in the Stand miniseries, the one who meets up with Nick and Tom Cullen and then runs away and goes and joins the Vegas clan.
Yeah, Mick Garris is like, a Stephen King go-to. He did, of course, the infamous Sleepwalkers in 1992. Then he did the Stand miniseries. He's done the Shining miniseries. I want to say he did Storm of the Century. I think he might have done Storm of the Century. But Gary Sinise played... Oh dear. What? Who's the main character in The Stand? Stu. Oh my God. Blah, blah, blah. Gary Sinise played Stu in The Stand. And I think I read he wanted Gary Sinise to play Jack. And I could see that. I really can.
Yeah,
I love Gary Sinise. Forrest Gump, Apollo 13. The guy can act. And Gary Sinise basically told him, that's Jack Nicholson's role. I don't want to do that. And I kind of feel like that was the way it was going to be for whoever got put in there. And Steven Weber, we were joking about this. We both watched Wings when it was on. And I loved Wings. And he was like the goofy brother in Wings.
The playboy.
Yeah. And to see him, like, what a drastic change this was. This is like watching Jim Carrey do The Number 23 or Will Ferrell try to play a straight character in a movie where it comes off as such a weird choice. But from the second he gets on camera, he felt like the Jack Torrance Stephen King wrote in the book.
Yeah.
Let's see. The only other thing I'll say about the miniseries, and I feel that you're going to get this, whenever you have an author write the screenplay to his own work, you have the tendency to have too much dialogue. And where the film, the 1980 original, is over 2 hours, I believe, but because they really leave so much of the book out, because they don't go into any of the backstory, because they are, don't do any caretaking, the
horror is in the silence.
Yeah, and they get to the horror quickly. I mean, almost, if you're a fan of the book, like Stephen King, obviously, the way he felt, you get to the horror too quickly, almost. Which is something I never would have thought until I read the book. In the miniseries, 3 episodes, 2 hours each, with commercials, of course. We both said they could have probably done this in 2 episodes. It does at times get too wordy. I know you're probably thinking that about me. It does get a little too wordy. The dialogue scenes do go on a little bit too long, and it almost feels like King is trying to squeeze as much of the book as he can into certain parts, where it's like, oh, wait, the time would be right for the tension right now, but there's 3 more lines of dialogue that were really good in the book, so we have to include them in the screenplay.
There was also some, and I guess this was in the 1981 as well, like some illogical choices, like where there would be like a dramatic scene with Jack, and he would, they would be hiding from him, and she's carrying around a knife, and then she's taking a nap. And then it cuts to the next morning, and it's snowing. So it's like, what happened during that time? And that happened a few times in the miniseries. I know that only happened once, the red rum scene in the original one, but that felt a little disjointed.
Yeah. Overall, I think Nicholson is just Nicholson, and no matter if you love the book, if you hate the miniseries, whatever your thoughts are, that performance is going to live forever, no matter what. I think Rebecca De Mornay and Steven Weber do an amazing job. I think they're book appropriate. I think they are great in their own right. I didn't particularly like Cortland Mead's performance as Danny, but I don't know if that's his fault. He was 8 turning 9 when they made the movie, which would put him in 2nd or 3rd grade, so he was way older than Danny was supposed to be. And he just never gave off the feeling that he was terrified of what he was seeing and what was going on. Whereas Danny Lloyd, and maybe because he was so young, looked like he was petrified. I mean, I don't think Danny Lloyd ever acted again. I think his film career was basically The Shining, get me the hell away from this. And that would make perfect sense. So overall, which was your favorite version of The Shining? The movie or the miniseries? There's no wrong answer.
Miniseries.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You want to give a why?
Why is because one about Tony. I liked how he actually added Tony other than the floating part. Because I agree with you, I don't like the floating part. The bathroom scene, we actually got to see, like, I know it was really scary when she, like, turned into a evil monster, but, like, we actually got to see her in the bathtub, like, all, like, zombie-like.
Fun fact, that was Mick Garris's wife playing the Room 217 monster. So, there you go.
Thank you. I liked how, I like Dick Halloran. What's his last name?
Dick Halloran.
Dick Halloran more because he, I don't know, he was just a good actor for Halloran, and yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was driving Christine throughout most of this movie. He had a red convertible that I'm pretty sure was a Plymouth Fury.
Oh. And I like the, I agree with, what?
I was going to say, you like the hedge animals, right?
Yes, I do.
Over the maze?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I like also is about Jack. I like how in this movie you can actually tell that Jack really, really loves Danny, like Mommy said. And so I agree. In this movie, the minute, like I agree with Mommy, the minute you see Jack Torrance in the movie, you know he's a psycho.
Yeah, well, that's true. What about you?
So I did like the miniseries. I actually love the miniseries. However, the movie has a special place in my heart, not only because I've seen it tons of times, but I watched it with my father. And, you know, parents in the 70s and 80s were, you know, not appropriate. So he would like to scare us by stomping up the stairs and going, "Here's Charlie," or going, "Kids, I'm home." So it's also a lot of nostalgia. Plus, it's just a great standalone movie. Like if you've never read the book, it's just a great movie. It's not the book. Don't expect it to be the book. And I know everyone I know who's ever seen it loves it. But you should watch the miniseries as well because it's great.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you just said. The Shining is one of those movies, especially as a lifelong horror fan, as my cats try to kill each other. Especially as this is one of those movies that helped me get into horror. The sheer terror of, you know, come play with us, Danny, being a kid named Danny. It's just, there's stuff that is ingrained in my soul as a horror movie fan that I'll never be able to forget. You can't appreciate how hard it is to do this with the cats trying to kill each other right now. I will say, though, having just read the book, I don't want to say I lose my love of the original. I do question whether Kubrick ever really wanted to adapt this book, or if he was just like, I have an idea for a haunted house movie with Jack Nicholson, and hey, maybe we can get Stephen King's book idea just as a framing device. Because they're so different. I mean, it's night and day.
The book was like definitely more the miniseries. I think they did a better job on the miniseries to make it more like the book.
Well,
of course.
Yeah, the miniseries, if you read the book, or if you don't want to read the book because reading is, you know, hard. I read it on Audible, I can admit. But if you don't want to read the book, but you want to get an accurate portrayal of The Shining, the miniseries is excellent. It's longer, of course, because it was made for TV, but it's not boring. The acting is good. The effects are very dated, but that's again because of TV. But yeah, I thought the miniseries was very, very good. The problem is, for me, which am I going to watch? Well, I'm going to watch The Shining year in, year out, maybe twice a year. It's a horror movie that you go back to time and time again. And if you've seen that bonkers documentary, Room 237, it's a movie that you get multiple things out of every time you watch it. And that's in part because Kubrick just... Look, as much of an asshole as he might have been, he might be the greatest filmmaker of the 20th century. And it showed in that movie, as crazy as the characters were. I don't know when I'm going to decide to rewatch the miniseries. Like, maybe if Charlotte reads the book, we'll go back and revisit the miniseries. But having just rewatched it and watching it when I was 15, I don't feel like it's going to be something I come back to time and time again. That being said, here on the Lassercast, next week, Pete and Chris and I are going to be getting together to talk about the sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep, done by, of course, Mike Flanagan, who somehow managed to make a sequel to this crazy movie, which is not really The Shining, and a sequel to the book at the same time. I have not read Dr. Sleep yet. She is trying to force me to read it. I just don't think I'm going to be able to finish it by next week's podcast. I will definitely start it. I'm like a few hours to go in Needful Things, and then that's going to be my next book. But we saw Dr. Sleep in the theater last year. Do you want to just say what you thought about it?
I mean, it was terrifying, and I loved it, and the characters, Ewan McGregor was great, and the going back to the Overlook was just was like going back to an old friend.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too many of my thoughts about it, but I have a very unpopular opinion, and that is that Dr. Sleep is, while not as terrifying of a movie, it is a much better film from beginning to end than The Shining. That's where I'll leave it. You'll get more of my thoughts in the Lassercast podcast next week. But we are going to rewatch the director's cut that I have on 4K Blu. You almost ate Tony. I have the 4K Blu-ray, and we're going to rewatch that next week, the director's cut, in preparation for our podcast. And it's Stephen King month, so stay tuned. We got more Stephen King stuff coming for you later this month. Short reviews, deep dives, you name it. This has been Danny, my beautiful wife Athena, Charlotte.
Wait, before we all go and say goodbye, I want to do something. Before we go, Daddy, me, and Mommy are going to say our favorite movies, Daddy to Mommy.
Favorite movies?
Miniseries to Mommy.
Oh, the original.
Miniseries.
Okay. I was like, favorite movie?
Bye.
Jaws? Bye, guys. See you soon on the Lassercast.